On today's episode of Living Testimony, we're gonna walk you down through there with Patches the Dread. We are back in the Love Deposit Studios. This is Living Testimony. I'm your host, Patches the Dread. And we're gonna walk you down through there. Man, today, I have somebody that's known from Oak Cliff to North Dallas. And I'm gonna walk down through his life slowly. Man, none other than Sherrod OG Ali Johnson. Welcome, man. Thank you. Glad to be here. Perfect. Well, tell me this. What part of town did you grow up in?
Oak Cliff, Texas, in a section known as Southern Oaks. Basically, that's where I grew up. Village Oaks, Southern Oaks, Spanish Terrace, Oak Cliff Village North, Oak Cliff Village South.
Okay.
And we moved at the tender age of 7. I was about 7 or something like that. And I landed in what they call Deuce Beckley.
Deuce Beckley. Okay, so tell me this. So you named off some iconic apartments around that area. Matter of fact, there's also what used to be Oak Cliff Boys Club around that area. Mm-hmm. And that area is well known. Like, matter of fact, in the song, Oak Cliff, that's my hood, they mentioned some apartments, Village Oaks. And so you were right there. What proximity was Southern Oaks to Village Oaks?
Right across the street.
Right across the street.
And the whole field was Southern Oaks. Matter of fact, Overton, when you cross over Illinois, it turns into Southern Oaks Boulevard. That's what a lot of people don't realize. So, like, at the time, those were like some real treacherous apartments, man. You know, you didn't, like, when Southern Oaks was open, you didn't hear a peep from Village Oaks or none of them Butterbean. The Butterbean was too small to begin to, you know, compete or whatever with us. But that whole area as a whole, we grew up, you know, like Pee Wee say, you could be from the same place, but you don't mess with a lot of people. You know
right.
What I'm saying? So
pockets of partners.
Yeah, pockets of partners. Yeah.
So, how many siblings did you have?
I have a little sister who thinks she's my big sister. You know, Rashida McClellan. You know, she's done a lot of leg work. She's involved in like the in-gang movement with Dominique Alexander, which is my homegirl's son. She does a lot of leg work for, you know, the community and stuff, and she's also involved in music. And I have a big brother that you all have interviewed, and that's Black Malcolm.
Okay. Now listen, that's interesting, and that helps me because I understand some of his past. But you know, the interesting thing when you're doing interviews is you can have 2-3 people that endured similar experiences, but they had a whole different lens. So today I want to walk through your lens.
Okay.
So what was your family dynamic like?
We had a loving, big family. It was dysfunctional, just like anybody else's family. We had problems, you know, this family member with that family member, but as a whole, we all got together every day. And when my grandmother was living, you know, we would all be over our house, and you can hear my family playing dominoes and Al Green, Love and Happiness, you know. And like when I landed in Beckley on Alaska, like, you know, my grandmother had been there since '66. She was like one of the first, if not the first person on Alaska, black person that is. And that goes hand in hand with that white flight from Oak Cliff.
Absolutely.
But we had a loving family overall. You know, we had our fights and our tiffs and our taps, and it's still that way today. So, you know, like, I come from the average loving family from Oak Cliff.
Okay. Let's go through that. You mentioned music. You mentioned that you have a sister that sings. So, was your family a musical family, a sports family? What kind of family would you describe you?
Everybody in my family either cooks, sings, or cut hair, and or a combination of those things. In my generation, we wasn't really too big on sports in my family. There wasn't too many sports players in my family, but we was all like musically inclined. Like I used to rap, and my brother used to have a thing, a little group, couple people they call East Keys Crew. That was way back with the Snake and Big Eye days, Munches for Your Bass, you know, the Dallas music scene with DLC and all that. So, you know, yeah, everybody is musically inclined. I used to run with Rod Wheeler and Big Wheel Records.
Okay.
But I came in under the guy that was up under Rod Wheeler named T Love. So shout out to T Love if you're watching, brother. I remember. Thank you for the times that I shared with Big Wheel Records.
Okay.
And Frozone. I think the most popular song came out of that was "Bump This in Your Cadillac."
Okay.
You know, Frozone and Bun B.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know, I've dippled and dabbed. My neighborhood, Apostle. I'm gonna just say Apostle because we ain't gonna name drop, but Lions Den Records. You know, I've done a lot of leg work, sold a lot of CDs. I haven't had the pleasure of being in the studio with them, but for putting down the leg work and getting their stuff promoted on the streets and stuff, I did a lot of the groundwork for that, for selling CDs all over Dallas and stuff, you know. So yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with several different like record labels and people that's musically inclined and stuff.
Okay. So it sounds like you've been a kind of like a mover and a shaker, doing different things. Tell me, when we say OG Ali, you know, what are you best known for?
In my younger days, I used to rap. Of course, being raised where I'm from, you had to fight whether you was a fighter or not. So I wouldn't say I was just known as no squabbler, but I wasn't no pushover. You couldn't. Motherfuckers know they had to come on with it. I'm sorry for cussing, but you know, they know they had to come on with it. You know, it might have took a little bit more, but like singing, rapping, and just being a hustler, just all my life I've been a hustler, man. You know.
Okay. So, at what age did you jump off the porch?
Too young, brother. You have to realize in the late 80s, mid to late 80s and early 90s, I was from 10 to 15, 16, 17, crack was a new drug. So, like, crack decimated our community before we really learned how to fight back. It was years later before we had MAD and crack is whack and this is your brain on drug. It had already decimated our community because everybody was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And the only people that was fortunate enough to make it through that without experimenting with it, or very little experimenting with it, for as the intake of it, those were the ones that had uncles and cousins and stuff to guide them and be like, boy, don't do this and that. But for the ones that, like me, that didn't have no father figure or nobody that could tell me, boy, this is going to ruin your life and this, that, and the other, it, you know, it was like, ooh, what's this? So,
yeah.
You know, man, it is what it is, man, you know.
So, you know, tell me this then, because that's an interesting take. So, I remember the crack era. I can smell it, man. I can smell it in on the darkest night. And I'll tell you this: there was two factions. There were some of the cooler older guys, you know, that had crumbled some of that stuff up and mixed it with marijuana.
Primo,
they called it Primo.
Pimp Squares.
Yeah, Pimp Squares.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had another faction, which were the parents, right? That were just, you know, Zombieland kind of walking the streets. How did that impact your life?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. I don't have the pleasure of coming from a hustling family. Everybody had money and, you know, getting money and all that type of stuff there. I come from a more blue collar, working type family. A lot of people in my family battle alcoholism, drug addictions, and things of that sort. But to wake up one day and be working at McDonald's or working at AutoZone and making ends meet, and then you get this little rock. We used to call them the image zones, 2.2s, you know, and you could make 230, 280 out for $50, and people was getting rich. Like, I'm talking about, like, right before your eyes. It was a hell of a persuasion to go the wrong route.
Yeah.
And a lot of us wasn't fortunate enough to make it through, for as both sides, both elements, for us selling and using. A lot of us are locked up now. A lot of us are dead. And we didn't get the chance to make it through that era. It was a hell of an era, man, for black society, especially around my way and where I'm from.
Oh, that was an interesting take. So, during that time, were you selling any drugs?
Well, we everything we talk about is in the past, so
Absolutely.
I've been guilty of it. That was that was one of my first charges when I went to prison. I caught my first dope case in like 91.
Okay.
I went to prison in 95.
So you went to prison in 91. And yeah, you know, we
95.
only talk about stuff under statute of limitations. So you
95. Yeah.
Okay, 95. And what was that? What was that charge?
I had some pistol charges, and I had been fighting dope cases from like 91 all the way up until 95.
And so, how long did they give you?
My first bid was 5. Well, it was 10 years, but I ended up doing 5 years flat.
5 years flat.
I went down with the attitude, with that Oak Cligg mentality.
Okay.
And like back then, I was supposed to do like 14 months and come home.
That's right.
Under the law, but
And Richardson.
when you get down, and Richardson, burying people, wasn't telling their families. Like I hit Turl unit, and it was like a gang bang disciplinary unit.
Okay.
The only way you could be on that unit is if you was a fuck up or a gang banger, and it was like the worst unit in the state of Texas from like 93 to like 98. And now they changed the name of it, and it's Death Row. They moved Death Row over there. But it was called a Terrible T when I was there, and it was nothing but, like, you didn't have no guidance, man. You know, everything was game. Even from the old heads, like, you had to have your eyes open. You had to be quick with it. You know, it's like a whole nother world, man. It's like you get in there and you ain't got no pistols, and you have to knife up and things like that sort. But, like, it was a shock. I actually, for those who understand penitentiary terminology, they took all closed custody Ferguson and all closed custody Beto, brought them up, gave them line status, and opened up Turl unit. That's how rough that unit was.
Oh, wow.
And it opened in 93, and when I got there in 95, the National Guards and Walter Cronkite and 60 Minutes and all that had just left, and like that's how bad it was. Like even the laws, even the prison guards was in gangs, the blue bandanas and all this type of stuff here. Like it was real gangbang orientated.
So man, listen here. Well, I know about Ferguson. Matter of fact, where that unit is, that's what my family's family home is, Midway, Texas. And then I know about Beto. My little brother did 10 years on Beto. And both of those have been known to be gladiator prisons, man. Just for young warriors.
I'm talking about from the moment you step in the door.
Yeah, so are you telling me that this particular unit was like that, turned up?
We was the worst unit in the state of Texas at that time. because you got to realize when they did that, when they made that move, it was like it wasn't no Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. It was Ferguson against Beto. And you know, Ferguson had his little fighting style, and Beto had their little rolling fighting style, and it was just trying to figure out who was gonna run the prison, you know. But later it started turning into, you know, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio.
Okay.
And there's so many gangs, like Mexican gangs, white gangs, African gangs. You got the tribe of Shabazz, the Ashanti tribe, the Texas Bad Boys. It's just the list just goes on and on and on and on. You know, for us, like when you get down there.
So it sounds like, I mean, the whatever prison they sent you to, and that they sent other men to, it wasn't a place of correction or rehabilitation. It was an institution of war.
For any man, or woman for that matter, because I grew up doing Clinton administration. And on the outside, he had us living good, but we didn't know he was a snake and had ramped up the prison, getting locked up, you know, at 700% times more than what it was before his administration. Those type of things didn't come out later, but
That's an interesting point.
When you enter into something like that, I mean, the first question you ask is where you from. And for any man that enters into that type of environment, you have two choices. You have choices. You can choose to be a better person for society. You can choose to educate yourself, whether it's Islam, Christianity, the ISIS papers, you know, whatever. Or you can just be in there telling the same old stories every day of what you did and who you whooped and how much dope you sold and you know, and just trying to figure out how to be a better criminal. So you have choices when you're in there. You can rehabilitate yourself in prison, but you have to look deep down inside yourself to know what you want out of your trip.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this: which were you?
I entered. It's funny because I entered like with that Oak Cliff shit, you know, and it was so funny because I used to walk around and like I was bad and old school told me, say, look here, bro, you can take that little 50-cent commissary mask off, and I'm like, huh? And he was like, man, the way you walk around here, if somebody want to try you, you gonna make them want to try you more. He said, man, relax, bro, do your thing, and that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to what was going on, but that ain't no place for nobody that want to enter, because like people say, you really left up to your will and who you are as a man.
There you go. Listen, I mean, I do a lot of these interviews. I talk to a lot of people. Some people skip over it, but for me, you know, I'm not fascinated with prisons. I've had all these family members in prison my whole life, but it is a place where you're stripped of so many things.
You stripped of your dignity. You stripped of your decision-making ability. On tour, you had to strip to go to child. You had to strip to come back on the pod. That's how much moving and shaking it was. Like, you know, the laws was dirty. It was like everything was about money. And the unique thing about the tour unit was it was three 8-hour shifts.
Okay.
So like the first shift to come on is strictly Caucasian. And like that's when the white boys get their chance to shine and sell stamps and do illegal shit. Second shift is mixed with, you know, Mexican, blacks and whites, forest guards, and then the third shift was straight up soul patrol. So okay. So it was a lot like it wasn't just the inmates, it was the laws too. Whatever it took to make a dollar, you know, the hustling don't stop. Yeah, the hustling don't stop. We selling peanut butter, peanut brittle. We pressing up tight whites for people to go see their people in. We selling cologne. We have women bringing in, you know, this, that, whatever, you know. So yeah, you know, once you get out there and get settled, then it's pretty much on you. Like the first couple of fights I had in prison was due to somebody trying me. Okay. Every other fight I ever had in prison was because I was bad and red and bad and motherfucking, you know, having my way.
Okay. Well, listen, the reason I spend time on that is because I look at our demographic, I look at our viewership, and I know the ages. And really, we got a lot of 18-year-olds to 35-year-olds, and then obviously we got the 37 to 55-year-olds. So I like to share some of these stories and to go into some detail about them because I feel like so many people are kicking down doors, man, to get inside that place.
My take on that issue is, even before any of us was a gleam in Pop's eye, the further you go back in the penitentiary, the rougher it got. I actually got to see the last end of turnkeys. For those that don't know what a turnkey is, that's an inmate that's given a position of power to open certain doors, or if you was a dentist in the world, they'll let you help the dentist and stuff. But the problem with that is if you had an enemy, if you was my enemy and you was a turnkey, and I go to get my mouth fixed, and I got to come to you, and I'm looking like, oh no. So I got to catch the last end of the rough penitentiary. Them niggas down there sitting down and shutting up now. And anything after 2006 is really watered down, bro. That's when the lighthouse came in. Lighthouse is when you tell it when somebody raping you and all that type of stuff, and extortion. Like you used to could like extort a person out of their stuff, but now if you get caught extorting, it's like a whole nother charge. You know what I'm saying?
When you touched on something, and our community is a strange community, but you just said something, so I'm gonna address it. You said lighthouse came in, and then you can tell if somebody raping you, but at first, listen, wouldn't you want to tell if somebody raping you? I want to be raped.
Well, I mean, shit, I never really had to worry about that. But for those that did, like, it's a hell of a thing, man.
Yeah.
You could hear it actually going on,
man.
And it didn't matter the size. It was just if you didn't have no heart, you was gonna get broke. I'm talking about, man, like people were sending their tennis shoes and stuff home, like for real, like so they wouldn't get took, and I'm like, huh? Like, do I want? Nah, I want to wear my shoes, and like I didn't understand a lot of things at first until you get down there. But the penitentiary is a sad, unescapable thing in most of our lives, especially if you're from the state of Texas, man. 82% of all black men in Texas has had some type of run-in with law enforcement, been on some type of supervision for parole, probation, or has been in some type of institution. Man, and I'm no different, man. It's not a jail in Dallas, Texas that I haven't touched, except one, and I was born in 73 and it closed in 72. But for the county, the government center, caves, what they call the jungle, was nothing but cages. South Tower, North Tower, it's not a jail in Dallas I haven't touched it. I'm not bragging on nothing negative, it's just the things that we have to go through in life in order to find our way, man.
Yeah.
Because they killed off a lot of our leaders and people that we could look up to, and it left a void for a bunch of young men that was trying to find their way. And now, today, these youngsters, they don't want to go by the title of knockout artists or hustler or nothing. They want to be shooters. They want to erase you out of here, and they don't. The major difference between my generation and what I see now in the streets is that if the trash man has something good to tell us in our everyday manhood that we can use in our everyday manhood like a man should, we flock to that. We wanted to hear that. If the Muslim dude or the cafeteria lady or the preacher or whoever it was that had some good stuff to tell us, we flocked to that. We wanted that knowledge. The youngsters now, they don't give a damn about who you are, what you did. You could be a stone cold killer. They don't give a fuck. Because if you touch them, they're going to try to kill you. There ain't no fighting in them or nothing. And I blame that to a lot of these young men being raised by their mothers, man. In the 70s, they started taking away the man from the household. That's when you saw the decline of the black family. You took pictures back then. If you notice, like all the pictures from the 70s on back, you had a man, a woman, and 30 kids. Now you look, it's just a woman and 30 kids. You know, so these young dudes are left up to their own devices, and they don't care about what you have to give them. And me personally, I used to try to talk to them, but now I'm like, got it. Like, fuck them little niggas, I tried it. Fuck them little niggas, I tried it. Because even the Bible tells me, don't cast your pearls to swine unless they trample it under their feet and turn it into something useless to salt. So, with that being said, as far as my nephew, rest in peace, and the few youngsters that I do fuck with, I don't give them anything unless they ask that of me. I don't just go around and be like, youngster, you need to stop that, and you go on the hill, and you know, none of that. But at the same time, if you come and you want the knowledge, man, I like how you carry yourself, I like this, or how did you do this? Then I give it to them because I know that they want that genuinely. You know, it's just a divide. Like, we was different, man. We were different. We wanted to hear something, especially if it was gonna game us up on getting some money. But nowadays, these youngsters, they don't give a damn. They being raised by Kodak Black. They being raised by Lil Durk. They being raised by Gang.
That's facts.
You know.
So tell me this. So you get out of prison. What did you do differently?
I don't even know what's.
I do, but I'll go back and get it.
That's funny because I've been in and out of prison for, like, if you add it all up, like 13, 14 years of my life has been given to the system.
To the penal system.
So the first few times, you know, I was studying my Islam, studying my Christianity. I'm going to get out, I'm going to make a difference, and this, that, and the other. And man, one thing about getting out of prison, I don't care how beloved you are. That first week or two is, oh, hey, man, such. I'm happy you home, blah, blah, you know. But after about 2-3 weeks, it'll be like, what that nigga doing? Oh, that nigga, he just over there laid up on his grandmama. Oh, he over there with his sister, and he ain't trying to do nothing no different. Life start kicking you in your ass, and then you start going back to old ways.
Okay.
So the difference between the first couple of times as compared to the last couple of times is that I always got out with the expectation that I was gonna be the person that's feeding the homeless and going the side hours to the empty fields and, you know, putting in work, and it never did pan out like that.
Okay.
And now when they ask me, even my own Muslim brother, what you finna do? I'm finna go get to it. And, you know, and, oh, brother, that ain't no example, man. I can't, none of y'all buy me no deodorant. Ain't none of y'all feed me when it's spread time. And Empire come on. I ain't trying to hear that, bro. You asked me what I was going to do. And,
So tell me this. So I know from your background, you mentioned your siblings. So I made some assumptions. I assume that you went to high school, probably near or around about in Maceo Smith.
the funny thing about actually attending those schools and being around those schools, I grew up on Alaska Street.
Yeah.
So we were the cats that was outside on either side of the street when you come out to the cafeteria to go home. And we was like dog class on a lot of them cats' heads. But far as me just attending Maceo, no. I went to SOC for 2 seconds and got kicked out for selling weed. I really didn't get to go to high school in Dallas. But I raised up. I went to, for elementary school, I went to William Brown Miller,
Okay.
Joseph J. McMillan,
Okay.
J. Leslie Patton, and then, you know, my mom moved around a lot, so I missed some years in Dallas. So a lot of people that I'm supposed to know or I'm supposed to have bump heads with or got along with, I didn't share like high school years and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I was in Oklahoma City and different places. And
Okay,
stuff like
okay,
that.
and I you know I remember bits and pieces of that, and you know, similar to my life, man. You know, I know Pola mentioned that we moved around a lot. You know, I went to 5 high schools, and you know, I think that it shapes you a bit. One thing that I recall being said was that you know, you don't really get attached to many people because you don't see them all the time. How was that for you, moving around a lot?
Well, it kept me on edge because I was left in charge of being the protector and stuff for my little sister. You know, it was just me and her a lot, you know, growing up a lot of the time. Because we was always on unfamiliar territory, going to unfamiliar schools and stuff. And, like, you still have to, like, fight and establish yourself as somebody not to be mess with, you know, so it really grew me up more than it hurt me, because in Dallas, you know, I'm smart enough to know a lot of situations that I'd have made it through is not because of who I am, but because of who my brother was. You know what I'm saying? And I can't get into no specifics, but like, bro, it wasn't no internet. Everybody who say they was bullies was really bullies, like real live lions and tigers and bears, you know, like, so you had to navigate through all that type of stuff, man, you know, but I've always been a person that could think. I was quick with it with my brain, so. Like, and I've always been a person that I've never really cared about what the next man was doing, so I never was caught up in being in somebody's business, or I said this, or he said that, because I was always interested in what I had going on, even as a child.
Okay. Now that's good, man, and thank you for walking me through that. So we've walked through high school, neighborhood, walked through moving around, and in prison on several occasions. So on this last time when you got released, when was that?
2008 or 9.
Okay.
And I paroled to my little sister's house in North Dallas.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of my life in the North.
Okay.
In the North, as they say.
The North.
North me up.
North Afghanistan. So you get out, move to the North with your sister, and tell me what life was like then.
North Dallas was a different world. My nephew, before he passed away, had already put down a lot of leg work. So when I came, she was already the grandmama of the neighborhood. And, hey, Miss McClellan and Miss Cheetah and all that type of stuff. You know, she did, you know, candy houses and stuff like that or whatever. So she was already established over there. And when I came, it was like, oh, you Derek's uncle? Oh, that's your sister? And I was looking at the game, and they was like, it was just different, man. It was like a lot of money to be had. So I jumped right in and you know, everybody. The difference is, like, when you talk about me, you talking about 2-3 different people.
Yeah.
You know, like, Sherrod is my first name, but everybody in Oak Cliff knows me from Sherrod. They know my struggles. They know the addictions. They knew when I was having money. They knew when I fell off. You know, they know my story. And in the North, I'm up, and I'm OG to everybody, because most of the people that I know is in their late 20s, early 30s. That was my nephew's friend that gravitated towards me when he passed away.
Okay.
So I got accepted in the North with open arms, and I ain't never left, you know. And you know, it is like it's a lot like when you start seeing OG and and all these little titles, Mac and Pimp, and some of these cats put that label on themselves. For me, I never forced nobody to call me no OG or no uncle or none of that. These are terms of endearment that's given to you because out of respect for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I look at it, because I've done my dirt, I don't have a lot of enemies or people that dislike me, even though it's a few. You can't please everybody. That's one thing. If you out here trying to please everybody, that's a losing battle. You got people that look at you and don't like you just for your style or your charisma or whatever it is that they don't like, and to them, fuck them, But most part, I get love. $6, Oak Cligg, the North. I know a lot of people from the West, but I never really just met. Well, yeah, I have. I messed around in the West a lot. On the side of Dallas, I really just don't know too much about is the East.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, spanning from several decades, and we talked through the crack era, tell me this. You experienced a lot. You kind of just did a quick breakdown on yourself. What would you today tell your younger self?
Well, looking back on life, it's a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have got involved with if I would have knew better. But that's kind of a hard question, because if you asking me would I do anything different in my life, from what I know now, I probably would have been more of a worker, job owner, like, owning things and going about life in a legal fashion. All I ever knew was to hustle. And I've had jobs. I've had plenty of jobs when I was younger, but all I've ever known was to hustle. And now that God has blessed me to get out and get on my feet, I would just tell myself, man, I would have to push harder in the things that I know is right. And even though this looks appealing, I already know what that was going to lead to. So it's just a lot of things that I probably would have done different for the hustle game or something like that. But there's no book to tell you how to live, so I wouldn't change too much or nothing about my life.
Okay.
For those who love me, I love you back, and for those who don't, feed your fish heads. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So tell me this. Are there any philanthropic things or business endeavors that you're working on that you'd like to share?
Well, my brother-in-law, he has a business. It's Go Get It Entertainment. It's pretty well known, that I try to help do things for them. Far as for myself, I'm looking into hot shotting and buying me a couple of little sprinters and doing hot shots and stuff like that. Everything is still coming full circle, but basically that's about it. Just trying to find something that I can do, to keep supporting my family, and try to set up something for my son in case of my demise or whatever.
Yeah, legacy. Okay, hey man, listen. I appreciate you stopping through the Love Deposit Studios, man, and sharing bits of your story on Living Testimony. Man, it's your boy Patches, man, and we've had OG Ali with us, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate you. Far as my little tidbit to the youngsters before we leave, man, you got to learn how to listen to somebody sometime. I don't care how you look at it worldly, spiritually, God say don't always lean on your own understanding. We have a saying that we like to say, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, but you have to learn how to pray to God, and not only pray to God, but let go of some things and let Him guide the way. My biggest message that I want to give to youngsters is, man, you don't know everything, bro. Matter of fact, you don't know half the shit you think you know. And like my grandmother used to say, you don't know, and you don't know that you don't know, and that's a sad state of affairs, man. So you have to learn how to swallow your pride and put your pistol up, man. That's not gonna help you in all your situations. That's gonna help you get dead or in the penitentiary, man. And as me, Tanya, Pee Wee, my brother, and anybody else that you have interviewed, it's the same recurring theme. Like, stay out of there if you can, man, because they railroading us. And at one time, we had a little thing called Oak Cligg. I don't know what happened to it. It was in Ledbetter. I mean,
Winwood? No.
Glendale.
Glendale, okay.
But they was doing a lot of studies and stuff, and they had found the statistic that rings true. Like in 75216, at one time, I don't know if they still doing it, but at one time they was arresting more black men from that area code alone than any other area code in the United States. And it showed, because at one point, you, like any unit in the state of Texas, you walk on and you say, "Side Island," 2-3 people gonna turn their head. You say, "Look, I nothing off." 1 or 2 people gonna turn their head. West, same thing, West Dallas, Pleasant Grove. But when you say Oak Cliff, you walk on damn near any part of the state of Texas right now, say Oak Cliff, about 30 people gonna turn their head. You know what I'm saying? And that's how deep we represent down there, and that's how fast we are getting locked up in our sections, man. So, man, if you have uncles and aunties that's been in the game or has navigated their way through the streets and things that we had to deal with growing up and being a teenager in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, it would, listen, man, listen sometime, bro. It ain't gonna hurt you to listen, man. Even if you don't put it in effect what you listening to, at least you got that knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? If you don't listen to nobody, you ain't never gonna have no knowledge. Everything you gonna do is gonna be trial and error, and you ain't gonna have too many times to do that because the white folk gonna hold you. Yeah.
That part. Well, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for stopping through.
Already. I appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you, sir.